My name is Katherine Hayhoe. I'm a climate scientist. I'm a professor at Texas Tech University, and I'm also chief scientist for the Nature Conservancy, which is a global organization that works on climate change, biodiversity, and conservation in 76 countries, including in Europe. As a climate scientist, I know that our future is in our hands. Our future depends on the choices that we make today. Will we see a future where we reduce our carbon emissions, we transition to clean energy, we use our land and our food and our energy more efficiently, and we will still see some changes, but we can adapt to those changes? Or will we see a world that continues to warm faster and faster until we can no longer adapt? Our agricultural systems, our water systems, our infrastructure, our cities, our economy, it is all built for a climate that no longer exists. Today, climate is changing faster than any time in the history of human civilization on this planet, and that's why it matters. Because again, it's not about saving the planet, it's about saving us. So often, when we talk about climate change, people feel hopeless, afraid, frustrated, sad, angry, overwhelmed. And no wonder. Because we do everything we can to help. We recycle, we take the train, we eat less meat. And then we hear that there's 3,000 empty flights that the airline is flying just to keep their gate assignments. Or that the 1% richest people in the world produce the most emissions. And we think, what difference can I make? And then we feel despair. But we can make a difference. And that difference begins by understanding that we have to change the system, but a system is made up of people. And how does a system change? When people call for that change. So yes, we can do things in our personal life, but the single most important thing that every one of us can do is talk about it. Not the science, not the polar bears, not the ice sheets. Talk about why it matters here. How is climate change affecting us? It's making floods worse. It's making springs drier. It's making summer heat more intense. Sea levels rising. And that is affecting people's lives right here, not only on the other side of the world. So we need to talk about how it matters to us here, but we also need to talk about what solutions look like for our city, for our school, for our church, for the organization where we work, or our company. Every organization at every level needs to change, and the way we change is when people use their voice to call for action. That's the only way that our society has ever changed before, and it's the way it must change again. And that means that it begins with us. The science of climate change is very complex, but what we need to know to talk about it is not. It's very simple. Only one chapter in my book is about the science, and it explains how digging up and burning coal and gas and oil produces heat-trapping gases that are building up in the atmosphere, wrapping an extra blanket around the planet. And just like you would if someone snuck into your room at night and put an extra blanket on you, you would wake up saying, I'm too warm, I didn't need this blanket. In the same way, our Earth is saying, I'm too warm, I don't need this extra blanket. That's all the science we need to know. 75% of the problem of those heat-trapping gases comes from burning coal, gas, and oil. 25% comes from deforestation and industrial agriculture. So what do we need to do? We need to, first of all, be more efficient. We are very wasteful with our energy and our food and our land. We also need to transition to clean energy, sources of energy that do not produce heat-trapping gases. And we also need to invest in nature, because we have too much carbon in the atmosphere, but when we put that carbon into the soil, it enriches the soil. When we put that carbon into the ecosystems, it helps the ecosystems grow. So when we practice regenerative agriculture, like no-till agriculture and cover crops, when we also restore and preserve ecosystems and wetlands, when we plant trees, even when we garden, all of those things help to take carbon out of the atmosphere and put it back in the biosphere and the soil where we want it, instead of the atmosphere when we have too much. So those are the three big categories of solutions. But all of those solutions look different in every place, in every city, in every home, in every business, in every sector. And so there's so much that we can do working together. There are so many different solutions. If we just learn about a few of them and we share them with somebody and we say, did you know? Did you know that this business is doing this? Or did you know that this city is doing this? Or did you know that this church is doing this? Maybe we should do that too. That's how change happens. And so when it comes to climate action, we always focus on ourselves. We think, I must recycle, I must take the train, I must eat less meat, I must buy less, I must live in a smaller place, I. Now, of course, individual actions are important. You can't say, I care about climate change, and you eat half a cow every week, and you fly around in a private jet. That doesn't fit. But it's not about us, it's about changing the system. 90 companies are responsible for 70% of carbon emissions since the dawn of the industrial era. 90 companies. The poorest 50% of people in the world are responsible for 7% of the problem. Climate change is a problem of inequity and injustice. It's a problem of waste and inefficiency. It's a problem of being stuck using the energy from 200 years ago today in this new century. To tackle climate change, we need to tackle the system. You could say everybody has to stop flying, but not everybody will stop flying. But if we change the system, we can change the airplane fuel so it is zero carbon. And then when they fly, it's zero carbon. You can say everybody has to choose sustainable fashion. But if we make the fashion industry sustainable, then all of the choices are sustainable whether somebody chooses to or not. That's why we have to change the system, because individual choices are not enough. At the very beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1, humans are told to rada every living thing on this planet. That is a Hebrew word that when you look at where it's used elsewhere in the Bible, it refers to caring for the needy and the poor and listening to people who have no voice. So rada can be translated as have dominion over or take responsibility for, but it is very much in the sense of caring for, protecting, looking out for every living thing, which includes humans, as well as animals and plants. Then in Genesis 2, humans are told to, the Hebrew word is abad and shamar, the garden. And those words have the meaning of to take care of, to cultivate, to protect. And then at the very end of the Bible, in Revelation, it says, God will destroy those who destroy the earth. So it's very clear that this earth matters to God. It's very clear that even the most seemingly insignificant aspects of creation matter to God. And it's also very clear that we humans have been given responsibility by God to care for each other and to care for every living thing on this planet. So as a Christian, I believe that if we truly take the Bible seriously, we will be out at the front of the line demanding climate action.